ever wondered why achieving success isn't always straightforward, you're in the right place. Our ways of achieving success are as unique as our brains, and what works for someone else might not work for you. So how do we tap into the right ones for us and avoid trying to pursue success on someone else's terms? You're listening to the Ambition Incubator Podcast, and I'm your host, Deirdre Morrison. I specialise in facilitating personal development using applied neuroscience. I'm going to be talking to and introducing you to some interesting individuals, their careers, their challenges, and the changes that they've made along the way. If you want actionable tips, inspiring journeys, and amazing insights to help you unlock your full potential, then stay with us for this episode. My guest today is someone that I've been keen to bring to the show for quite some time. I know from many of you that there are quite a lot of people out there who would like to introduce more speaking opportunities to their business strategy. Now, I've had a number of fantastic speaking coaches on the show before, but today's guest is actually the decision maker when it comes to putting people in front of a global audience. Beth Schofield is the head of speaker selection for an organization with a global membership, and she tells us where she looks to find people to take to that stage and how you can stand out to decision makers like her. Now, hello Beth again, and it is lovely to have you here. And I have so many questions, as you know, so many questions about what it is that you do, who you do it for, and how other people can learn from this amazing job that you do. So first of all, you are the head of speaker selection and coordination for coaching.com and WBEX. That's quite a role and quite a responsibility. First of all, can I ask what your career path was to get to that?
Well, it's quite a random one, DJ, I have to admit. So I very randomly fell into that role, and thank goodness that I did. I was on a path to becoming an educational psychologist. So I studied educational psychology. No, I didn't. I did a degree in psychology. And then, I wanted to go down the path of becoming an educational psychologist, for which I had to get 2 years paid experience working with children. So after my degree, I was a teaching assistant for 2 years. And then I was on the path to applying for a doctorate in educational psychologist, which would be the qualification that I needed. However, I wasn't ready in my heart. I just didn't feel like I was ready to kind of take that step at that time. I wanted to travel and, just have a few more experiences first, because I knew as soon as I, was on that doctorate, that would have kind of been it. It would have been hard to come off the path after that. And so I went traveling. I went to Central America. And when I was in Costa Rica, I have a good friend called Sophia, who was also in Costa Rica at the time with her husband, Ben Croft, who was and is the original founder of WBEX. So I met up with them. They were also with the team, the WBEX team, who was tiny at the time. And they were basically on a work retreat. This remote team I think a few of them had met before, but it was primarily to kind of bring the team together. And I just gate crashed their trip, basically, just with the intention of, staying a couple of days and meeting everyone. And after spending a bit of time with them, Ben basically offered me a job. And it was a very, whirlwind experience. I had never kind of been introduced to that world of remote working before. I didn't know what an online summit was. I didn't even really have a good knowledge of what coaching was, or especially a kind of business and executive coach. So, of course, I said yes. I didn't have to kind of think too hard about it, because I just thought, wow, how often does this kind of opportunity come along? And so, yeah, so a trip which was supposed to last about 4 months ended up lasting about 8 or 9 months, I think. Of course, you can imagine my mum on that phone call when I told her, I was staying longer and this man had given me a job, and she obviously she had many questions about that, and I wasn't coming home, and but of course, it worked out absolutely perfectly. And yeah, so that trip ended up, really changing the trajectory of my life forever. And it was, as I say, it was a whirlwind, a whole new world of work,
Yeah.
a whole new industry that
Mm.
yeah, I hadn't really kind of known about at all before.
Yeah. And how long ago was that, Beth?
So that was in March 2016, so almost 7 years ago now. And when I
Wow.
started, I was, just kind of helping out with administration tasks and just
Mm.
kind of taking it all in. And
Mm.
I naturally kind of fell into helping with speakers. And at the time, WBEX was tiny, so the team was only about 8 or 10 people maximum, and the only two programs we had were the summit and coach conversational intelligence. So those were what we were creating at the time, and I kind of joined the summit team almost, and helping with coordinating speakers and things. And I think just gradually over the years, I kind of started to get more involved with the research, and I loved it. I loved that part of the role. And then I think from about 2018, that's when the lineup basically became my own. It's been my baby since then.
Mm.
And yeah, very, very
Yeah.
proud of it.
Yeah, and so you should be. I mean, it's quite a lineup. And I guess this is the thing. I've spoken to a lot of speaking coaches, and people who help people to develop their talks and to develop their
Hmm.
skills for doing exactly, I suppose, the sort of thing that you are selecting people to do. So this is why I was really interested in talking to you, because I think that you probably hold pieces of the puzzle that
Hmm.
we haven't necessarily seen too often before. So it was really around that I wanted to ask you some things. And I guess to start with, you're looking for very specific kinds of speakers who are appropriate for the coaching and development industry, right?
Yeah.
But there are probably some things that are generic to speakers that you will either go, oh, you know what, that sounds like somebody who is going to be able to deliver, or that sounds like a
Mm.
red flag. Is there a sort of a summary of that you could give us, or a few pointers for people that you could talk about, how to not make themselves a big red flag, basically?
Yeah, so for me, it's about presence, and if well, first of all, you need presence online to be found in the first place. But if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to talk about this," or can I join the lineup? Obviously, I always look into their work, and if they don't have a solid presence online, that's a red flag, because it means that they're not doing
Mm,
the work to put themselves out there. And also it questions the quality and the validity of what they want to talk about. If they aren't kind of confident and creating the content and getting feedback from people, then that questions whether we would want to put them on our stage. So, that's definitely something that I look for. And what I mean by presence is, are they speaking at other events? Do they have a TED talk? Do they have a book? Are they posting on LinkedIn? Do they have many followers? And, those kind of things aren't
mm,
essential, and you absolutely don't need all of them. But there needs to be something that I can take to
mm.
think, okay, yes, they have got the experience and the drive and the motivation to be talking about what they want to talk about at our event, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yes, it does. I mean, because the reputation of WBEX, of the
Hmm.
summit, is such a high standard of speakers and such good quality content. So, um, I guess that's really important to know. Where is it that you're looking? How are you finding people?
Yeah.
And yeah, so many people would love to have a TED talk, but that seems like something that's almost, you know, an end game
Yeah.
rather than a step that they'd already have taken. So what other things that, I mean, if somebody's not necessarily at that stage where
Mm-hmm.
they've already written a book or something, are there other things that are appropriate indicators that that you would be able to find easily or look for?
Yes, well, the main thing is that they're positioning themselves as a speaker. So, with or without the book or the TED Talk or anything like that, um, I need to know that they speak, that they aren't just somebody who coaches or who leads. I need to know that they have presence on stage and they have a really strong message to share. So the first thing I always look for, well, first of all, the website is a really key feature, because when you're researching hundreds, if not thousands of people, your attention needs to be grabbed, and the website needs to be bold, clear, attractive. I need to be able to know, what your unique selling point is very quickly. And I also need to know that you are a speaker, or you want to become a speaker. And you do that by having a speaking section on your website. So, in the toolbar at the top, you have about coaching, and then media, and then speaking. Okay, so having that speaking section, as soon as I see that, it's like, oh, okay, cool, they're a serious speaker. On that speaking section, tell me what you want to talk about. Tell me the speaking, like, if you have like 5 speaking topics that you like to cover, then that's really helpful. That gives me a really clear indication of what you are going to bring or what you want to bring to the event. Pictures. So if you have pictures of you speaking to a room, that's really helpful. It doesn't need to be a huge room either. It could be a small class. You could be giving a lecture or something like that, or some kind of delivering training. Get people to take pictures of you when you're doing that, and use them on your website. And also links to videos as well. So if it could even be just webinars, like if you've delivered a webinar or taken part in similar to what we're doing now, where there's video content and you're being interviewed, then put links to those kind of videos on that page as well, because that just creates a picture of you being a speaker, wanting to be a speaker, and it allows me to see your presence and presentation style at the same time. So that's definitely the key tip that I would give to anybody who wanted to become a speaker. Definitely, absolutely make it very clear that that's what you want to become.
Okay, so let's flip this a little bit then. What do people who do your job, people who are organizing speakers, what do you hate? What do you not want to see from people, whether they're, trying to pitch you directly, or whether they are, just otherwise kind of out there in the world? What is a big no-no for you?
So a really ancient website, and I know that might not sound, very inclusive or whatever, but sometimes I see websites that are, from the 1980s, like literally, like they are so old, and or at least it feels like I'm not sure if they were actually created in the 1980s, but it feels like they were. They're so old. Buttons don't work, the design is so ancient, and straight away that's a huge turn off. So yeah, an old website. Also, to be able to not be able to understand what somebody specifically wants to talk about, like, quickly, or what they are known for, that's a big turn off as well. So I'm a leadership coach. Okay, great, but what specifically can you bring to our event that nobody else can bring? So I'm always looking for originality, and people who are here to offer a really good solution to a common problem, almost, but in quite a unique way. So anything that's kind of broad and general, and yeah, that just kind of blends in with the crowd a little bit, that's also a turn off, I'll say.
Okay.
Those are the main things. Yeah.
So, say they've got through all of these hurdles. They've caught your eye somewhere online, whether it's on a their website or LinkedIn or whatever it is, and you've asked someone to deliver a talk.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to see from them then? How is it that you want them to, I guess, show up so that you're both getting value from this opportunity, and they can then go on and deliver
Yeah.
more talks somewhere else, rather than just it go terribly badly wrong and be a bad experience for everyone.
Yes, so there's a few key things that I always share as best practices for speakers when they confirm their participation, and the main one is being prepared. So that is really taking the time to read the emails that I'm sending, to read the presenter guide that we've created, get to know the audience, ask as many questions as possible so that you are crystal clear about what you need to do, the audience you're speaking to, and ask what makes a good session as well. So every audience is completely different, and what our audience love is very practical, tangible takeaways, where the coaches will attend something and then they've literally got a tool in their back pocket that they can use with the client immediately. That might not be what another audience of another event likes. So I definitely think it's great, for speakers to ask the event organizers, what is it specifically that your audience love and need and are looking for? What do your highest rated sessions look like? Can I see some recordings of those so that they can then kind of model or just get some inspiration of how really successful speakers and sessions have gone in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is making sure that you present exactly what you have offered up as what you want to present. So we ask for a session title, session description, and key learning takeaways. And sometimes I think because we schedule speakers so far in advance, sometimes they might forget, what they've specifically put on that description, or they've kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent, and whatever they deliver is occasionally not exactly, what we've said it's going to be. And that's a big no-no. The coaches have carved out that time specifically in their calendar to show up for that specific session, and if it's not exactly that, then it's always highlighted to us. And so that's massive. Get really clear on exactly what you're presenting and make sure that it's an exact match of what you've said it's going to be.
Yeah.
Another thing is, and timing. So just practicing the session and making sure you're very clear on the timing that you're allocated in terms of, the length of the session. How long is the intro? How long is the outro? How long is the Q&A? And all of the anything else, that's going to affect the timing, and practice the timing, because again, if a speaker runs out of time and we're not able to go into a Q&A, then that really impacts the effectiveness of the session, because people want to have their questions answered. Sorry. So those are definitely some things.
And there are speakers that I've seen coming back time and time again at WBEX. There are clearly speakers that are providing amazing value for your audience, but are also really, really good to work with. So are there some that are on? Have you got a bucket list of speakers that you want to work with? Who would be the dream team if you had to choose your I don't know, fantasy speaker list?
Oh, well, again, I mean, my fantasy speaker list is based on our coach's fantasy speaker list. So Brené Brown is absolutely number one on there. Unfortunately, she's very difficult to nail down for events. I have tried many times and I will keep trying. But yeah, that's definitely a tricky one. Amy Edmondson, so she did make an appearance last year. She co-presented with Hal Gregerson, and it was fantastic to work with her. But I would love to get Amy to do, a full session. Her work on psychological safety has been so profound within the coaching industry and leadership development, and coaches, always reference her work, speakers always reference her work, and I would love to have Amy kind of front and center of our event. But we've had some really incredible speakers. Susan David last year was phenomenal. We've had Martin Seligman, Adam Grant, Simon Sinek. So we're doing pretty well in terms of those kind of big players. But obviously, there's always that ambition to get more, and Brené Brown's definitely top of that list.
Well, if she's listening,
then give me a call, Brené.
So is there anything that we should be looking out for, sort of that you know about already and we don't? Are there any top tips for what to look out for next?
Do you mean in the event, or?
Yes, anything coming up at wbexandcoaching.com that those of us in that sector should really, or even, I mean, do you know what? I sometimes think that it's really limiting to just say that these are for coaches, because so many of them are not just for coaches. They're just brilliant talks.
Yeah. I love that you said that. Yeah. And I certainly, learn so much from them as well, DJ, especially, and I'm not a coach, and they're so valuable. So, coaching.com, we're very busy. We have obviously lots coming up, and we run 2 or 3 programs every year in addition to our annual summit. So the upcoming summit is going to begin in June. We have it's what we call a pre-summit, and it's a completely free event. So that's June 2023. And then our kind of full summit is a year-long event that runs from July 2023 through to the following June 2024. And I'm very busy now creating that lineup. So we'll be literally announcing that full 12-month schedule in June. So stick around and see who we've got coming up, because it's going to be a good one.
Oh, it always is, isn't it? But I guess just on that thing of, that really these talks are so incredibly full of insight and wisdom, and so, I mean, even technical stuff. There's just such an amazing array there. Is there something, or is there a talk that you've heard, or something that one of your speakers has said to you that has made a mark on you, that has helped you see things a different way?
I think Hal Gregerson is a really special human being, and he's had a really big impact on me personally, I'd say. He has this presence that is so calming and relaxing, and yet you're in the presence of such a brilliant mind and human being. And he really stands out as someone I'm so pleased to know and kind of have a connection with. And his session, so he speaks specifically on he has this tool called the question burst tool, and it's basically, obviously it's great for coaches to use, but it's also fantastic for leaders and anyone to use to basically try and spark creativity in different areas. And it's definitely something that I've used in my own personal life. So I think, if I was going to kind of pick one person who had made a bit of a difference, it would definitely be Hal. And, we're just so grateful for his generous participation and just for being such a wonderful human being to work with every year.
Oh, that's lovely. And, I was going to ask you, this was kind of a silly little question to wrap up, but in a way you've kind of told us, but at the other side of it, you haven't, because... Anyway, I'll ask the question first, and then you can see if there's a different answer. So earlier you told us the path you were on before you hit this career change and career, I guess, opportunity. But if you weren't doing this job now, what do you think you would do?
Oh, good question. I would love to be doing something similar, but maybe it's for a different audience. So I would love to, what I've learned from this role is that I love well, I think I knew this anyway, but I love working with people. I love building relationships. And what I've recently came to discover in the last couple of years is I love hosting webinars. It's, something that gives me such a buzz every time I do it. And so after experiencing this role for so long, it would definitely be something that kind of accumulated those things of working with really cool people, building connections, and obviously definitely something in the online space. I'm a big advocate of remote working. I could never kind of go back into an office, but something similar to this, Deirdre, but maybe is for a different audience or in a different industry or field.
Okay, last question, I promise. Being around all of these coaches, I mean, like really amazing level people who are helping their clients change their lives, do the things they want to do, and so on. What is it that that you've absorbed from that? Are there any things that have changed about you being in the presence of all of this kind of coaching vibe, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, coaches are wonderful, wonderful people. They're wonderful people to work with and to serve. We're always really overwhelmed by the gratitude that we receive, and the patience, when we were just starting out, as WBEX all those years ago, of course, there were kind of teething problems, and as any, newer kind of organization there would be. And the coaches were always so patient and so understanding and just so genuinely, just genuinely happy with what we were creating, that those kind of things didn't matter too much. And so that's always kind of stuck with me. I want to say of having that grace, especially with, organizations who I might be a customer for or something like that, just having that grace and that patience to respect that mistakes do happen. And there are always periods of, when slip-ups might be made and things like that, but to always just be patient and kind. And that's definitely something that we've seen shine through in our coaching audience, and has definitely had an impact on my life because of that. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Beth. I really, really love that. And thank you so much for giving us your time and your insights today. I have no doubt that there are many people out there who have been trying to work out what they need to do to progress their speaking, and I am sure that this will be like a little treasure trove for them. So thank you.
Amazing. Yes, happy to help. So thank you so much for having me, Deirdre.
Hey, thanks for listening. I would love to know what you've taken from this episode. It's always really interesting to hear your insights and what action they help you to take. Making progress involves making change, from how we do things to how we view things. We're constantly revising and tweaking our approach to optimize our results. As a specialist in applied neuroscience methods, I have consistently seen that the more we understand the science behind how our brain works, the more control and finesse we have in our actions, our reactions, and our interactions. And of course, that works for us as individuals and as teams, and it benefits ourselves and everyone around us, whether we're at work or at home. Now, if you'd like to discover the power of applied neuroscience for yourself, then follow me on LinkedIn or visit the website at neurocreative.studio to explore the possibilities. And don't forget, hit subscribe so that you'll always know when we've got a new and interesting interview available for you to listen to.